Oh, hey, good morning, good afternoon, everybody, depending on which part of this fractured, frigid country that you're in. I'm Sheila Gunn Reid. You're watching the daily Rebel Roundup. I am largely your host, and today I'm joined by the regular Wednesday co-host from beautiful Regina, Saskatchewan, my real life best friend, Lise Merle. How's it going, Lise?
Hello, my darling Sheila Gunn Reid, and welcome, Rebel fam. Nobody is more delighted to be your regular hump day co-pilot on this wild adventure that we're on at Rebel News. More than me, but man, do we got a great lineup today. Ooh, this country never stops delivering on the juicy, newsy goodness. Do they,
Yeah,
Sheila? Do they?
I think other journalists wake up and they're like, oh, I wonder what I'm going to talk about today. And I'm like, how do I get to all this big fat mess of a country that I have to deal with today? Like, can we invent an extra 3 hours in a day and perhaps an extra day called Wednesday? I need another extra day in the middle of the week to talk about all this stuff because it's just nonstop nonsense from the federal government and Mark Carney and Doug Ford and then Trump.
Yes.
It's a lot.
We got, keep going. Sorry, go on, keep going.
No. I was just going to tell everybody, and after we get into the swing of things, I'm going to expect you to be able to say these things. Yep. If people want to get involved in the show, and you are still one of those prickly pears still watching us over on the censorship platform of YouTube, I understand you and I appreciate you. When they tell me I don't belong somewhere, that's how you get more Sheila. I'm like the Kool-Aid man. I'll kick down the wall and just waltz on in and make myself seen and heard. And so I understand if there are still you conservatives over there sticking it out on YouTube. But I should tell you, we are completely demonetized on YouTube. So if you want to support the work that we do, but also support a platform that cares about your right to express yourself, take your view and eyeballs and park them over on Rumble. Because on Rumble, you are not going to get censored, but you're also going to get the uncensored version of Rebel News. And as an added bonus, you can support the work that we do out of the goodness of your heart, because we will never take a penny from Justin Trudeau, unlike our peers, I think is the right word to use, in the mainstream media who are constantly being bailed out by their sugar daddy, Justin Trudeau. We could never hold him to account if we did. Even if we were not biased in favor of the Liberals, the perception would be there that we were politically contaminated by having a paymaster in Ottawa named Justin Trudeau buying sycophantic coverage. And boy, if you look at the mainstream media these days, it sure feels like that's exactly what's happening. So on Rumble, you can leave something called a Rumble rant. That's their paid chat. If it's over the $5 US cutoff, we're obligating ourselves to read it and address it on air, but don't let that be the bar for entry. I understand Justin Trudeau's picking your pocket harder than ever before. So if we have time, and the show is longer than ever these days, if we have time, we'll read your chats that fall below the $5 US cutoff. Again, no obligation though, only if we have time. And you know what? Even sometimes we read the free chats because they're clever and witty too. So there's that. Let's get into tariff mania. It rolls on. We are in the throes of tariff mania right now. The White House says 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum would stack on top of other 25% tariffs.
I do believe this is what they call compounding tariffs. Canada, if you think that the Team Canada approach of the hard line, that we're going to teach those big bad Americans a lesson, you think that approach worked? This is your proof that it absolutely did not. The Americans are laying waste to our industries for the missteps of the people who signed on to that terrible and aggressive, an antagonistic approach to Donald Trump's administration. And yeah, if you want to do something for your home province and the industries and the workers in that province, you should encourage your elected officials to take a much nicer approach to that administration.
And speaking of sycophantic coverage of the Liberals being bought and paid for by those journalistic subsidies, I would just out of the corner of my little eyeball here was reading the website copy from CTV, and it says this: despite months of diplomacy, excusez-moi, from all levels of Canada's government, it remains unclear what Trump wants from America's northern border. What?
Well, once again, what?
How many lies are in that one little bitty sentence? Despite months of diplomacy from all levels of Canada's government. Nope, not months of diplomacy. Justin Trudeau didn't even talk to the White House before he announced retaliatory tariffs. And then it remains unclear what Trump wants from America's northern border. I'm pretty sure he said exactly what he wants. One of them was a fentanyl czar, which was only appointed late yesterday, and we'll get to him in a little bit.
Oh, I can't wait. I can't wait to talk about Canada's fentanyl czar. Oh, this is going to be a wild ride, Canada. We talked yesterday about how Brenda Lucki, former commissioner of the RCMP, would have been a disaster, but I'm like, sit down and buckle up, Canada. Trudeau did us even better. I mean, worse than
did
Brenda
us dirty.
Lucki. Ooh,
he did us
did
dirty.
He ever? Ooh, did he ever?
Yeah. It's funny to see the Trudeau government getting slapped with compounding tariffs, much like how they slap you with compounding late fees and interest if you owe these people a penny to the CRA. Enjoy your mob levels of compounding interest from Donald Trump.
Compounding carbon tax. Carbon tax that carbon tax on the trucks that bring it, carbon tax on the producers, carbon tax. Yeah, they're getting a taste of their own medicine. I bet that it will be bitter. It will be
Now,
bitter.
again, CBC, again, here's your bailouts at work. Trudeau, they have it written as though Trudeau was trying to explain tariffs to J.D. Vance, who basically used his brain to crawl his way out of generational poverty and the cycle of opioids. The empty bucket of Justin Trudeau's head thought he would explain what tariffs are to J.D. Vance. And then CBC's like, yeah, great headline, guys. Let's run with it. Justin Trudeau brought up the impact of tariffs in U.S. Vice President's home state. The two leaders met on the sidelines of an international summit in Paris Tuesday. By the way, did you see some of the images of J.D. Vance bringing his kids to that summit? Like, it is making it perfectly acceptable to have small children in the White House again, between J.D. Vance and Elon Musk with their little ones running all over the White House.
It is the cutest.
And Donald Trump having strong grandpa vibes.
Yes. Just totally tolerant of all of these little humans just being there, just their little presences being there. I love that in the press conference yesterday with Elon and Donald Trump in the Oval Office, little X was there, like, and you can hear him in the audio, kind of like just being a 3-year-old. It's just wonderful to see. It's just wonderful. Oh, look at these guys.
So these are the little Vance kids, and they are clearly exhausted like normal little kids are. And they've got their little pea coats on because they are the vice president's kids, but you'll notice those are jammies.
Those are jammy pants. Everybody was in their jammies on the international flight. That's right.
Yeah, like it's
sweet.
so nice to see this young, energetic vice president who doesn't dislike children, which I feel like Kamala Harris had a visceral dislike of children, just packing a little one on his hip off to Paris. I like it. I like seeing it.
Me too.
But yeah, this is what Trudeau told. This is what he told reporters. He said to J.D. Vance, thinking that he could make a light bulb go off in J.D. Vance's brain. It was just a quick greeting exchange, Trudeau said. I highlighted that 2.2 billion worth of steel and aluminum exports from Canada go directly into the Ohio economy, often to go into manufacturing there. He nodded and noted it, but it was no longer exchanged than that.
JD,
yeah, I believe.
JD Vance would have been like, okay, bud. Okay, bud.
Like,
we're gonna replace that in a hot second. Thanks for pointing out. You know, here's the thing. In JD Vance's head, he's literally logging how much steel and aluminum America has to replace from Canada, like right in that moment. Like Trudeau just gave him the amount that America has to make up for. So way to go. 5-star negotiator, Trudeau. 5 stars.
And you know, like, it's Trudeau, so he was probably like, hello, Vice President Vance, with the crib notes on his hand. Did you know that $2.2 billion worth of Canadian steel,
aluminum
goes to Ohio?
That's about it. I mean, the guy doesn't have a shred of dignity left, and I mean that he literally admits to JD Vance just nodding and sort of blowing him off as the icing on the cake.
He nodded, and that was that. He was probably like, "Okay, champ, good job.
Yeah.
To get it in your system.
Good pitch." Yeah. Oh Lord. Yeah.
I wish I was there, because it was probably like just that needy, nerdy loser kid who is rightfully shunned by everybody, not through any fault. Like, you know, there are kids out there who are just through no fault of their own, but like, he did this to himself, and they're like, God, here comes Justin again. Because it seems like all of his like interactions at the international level are just him getting denied handshakes. by other leaders.
Being rebuffed by the international community. I actually read a report that said that that everybody is literally just disgusted with him and wondering why he's there. Like everybody just works to avoid him at these events. Like, whispering right beside him, he resigned. Like, why is he here? Like, he said he was done. What is the point of him being here right now? And that's a valid argument. If you've resigned your position as Prime Minister of Canada, you should not be traveling still to international events representing Canada, because you've already told us that you're done. You're already what gives you the right to negotiate on our behalf or to further advance the causes of your government that is, for all intents and purposes, on the way out?
Yeah. You know what he reminds me of? Everybody's got the one person or two people on their Facebook page that you haven't really spoken to since high school and perhaps beyond, but you sort of just lurk at them to see where their life has become, with sort of like rubbernecking, the way you would look at a car crash. And then that person finds their way into an MLM and then won't shut up about their MLM. And then you sort of like ignore every time they get on their Facebook, they sort of ignore them. They spam you with their junk and you ignore them. That's Justin Trudeau in real life with these leaders, where he's just like spamming them with his bad business ideas that everybody knows they're not reflected in reality, but they're like, fine, sure, Justin, sure, I'll come to your Epic Year party.
Good for him. Good for him for trying.
He's trying.
Good for him for trying. What does drive me crazy, though, is the insane amount of carbon that this guy burns through, flying all over the world. Like, he's done, 100 international trips in this last year? It's got to be 100 international trips in this last year, while his party tells us not to road trip with our families in the summer, Canada. Oh, here it is.
18,000 liters from our friends at Western Standard. 18,000 liters of jet fuel on his European farewell tour, and he cautions us against climate change. The cost to operate his plane is around $17,000 an hour, and then we tack on the luxury food items to that,
and the booze and the luxury accommodations and the luxury ground transport while he's there. This is just adding up to be another $250,000 week in Justin Trudeau's life. But I mean,
I would be shocked if it's that low.
You think? You think it's like half mil week?
Yeah, I think we're like around 350,000. I think by the time we're done. Paris ain't cheap.
Well, we're deciding whether to buy no-name cheese or regular cheese, Canada, in smaller blocks. This is what this guy is spending our tax dollars on. We should be outraged. We are outraged. We are.
In the meantime, people are like, look at how patriotic I am. I didn't buy American orange juice.
Slow clap. I'm gonna buy whatever fits within my budget. Thanks so much. Yeah, exactly.
Whatever's on sale. Thank you.
Exactly.
And especially since the Liberals and the NDP won't shut up about Galen Weston and Loblaw, of all people that I feel sympathetic for, it's Loblaw, like Superstore these days, just because Jagmeet Singh hates him because his brother's a lobbyist for Metro.
That's a real good reason to go after a competitor, isn't it, Jagmeet? Like, it just reeks of nepotism. It just reeks of nepotism. He doesn't have anything against Superstore. As a matter of fact, Superstore and No Frills and their subsidiary companies are some of the most affordable places.
They definitely are.
To buy groceries in Canada, and yet Jagmeet Singh would scream that you should get your tofu and your avocados at the most expensive place. Well, this is a rich story coming from a guy that doesn't have to worry about pinching pennies because of the economy that he created.
Yeah, I know we're sort of off on a tangent, but I want to put a pin on that because the NDP won't shut up about grocery profits. And look, don't bother reminding me that Loblaw, the Weston family, colluded to keep the price of bread artificially down. Yes, disgusting. Making bread more expensive for poor people, a pantry staple for poor people more expensive. But getting beyond that, Loblaw group of companies did experience at least some success over the last little bit as groceries were going up and up and up. But here's where they experienced their growth. It was on the store brands, on the yellow label, on the no-name brand, because they were offering a cheaper alternative to the higher value items, and people were turning to the grocery store brand to make ends meet because they were able to offer something cheaper. So while the NDP are like, they're making record profits, they're making record profits because people are turning to them in droves because of the like low margins that they're able to sell these items for in their yellow label brand.
Yeah, that's exactly right. When there is a budget crunch on a family level, typically you'll see that first. You'll see going from, your high-end brands to your medium priced brands to your low priced brands before people will start cutting down on volume. But this is what we'll see. This is what we'll see next, and I think that this is reflected in current statistics in Canada. Is people have already gone over the last 2 years from their name brand grocery items to the yellow brand grocery items, and now they are cutting back on volume, and parents are going hungry because they need to keep feeding their kids. This is just the way of economics. I wonder how come Mark Carney isn't chiming in about this. If he's such a gifted economist, how come he's not chiming in about this?
Can I tell you? I just by the way, if you viewers at home, if you are a subscriber to Rebel News Plus, today's show is a doozy. I just filmed it with Chris Sims of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, and she is doing the Lord's work of reading Mark Carney's manifesto. It's called Values, and it's like that thick, and she's going through it. And we were talking about how Mark Carney has not just been the author and biggest pusher of carbon taxes, both here and around the world. He works to debank energy projects that do not fall within sustainable development goals. He imposes DEI on companies through the financial sector, through GFANZ, that's the Glasgow Financial Alliance on Net Zero or something like that, and then through his company or his asset management firm. He's been investigated by the US, I believe it's the House. Jim Jordan interrogated him for I forget what it is, but it's basically collusion. And so he is colluding as an asset manager with banks and other companies to drive up the cost of affordable energy for Americans, which is illegal in the United States because they protect the free market. But Mark Carney wants to bring in carbon tariffs. You see, if he cannot bend other countries to his will through GFANZ and the United Nations and the WEF, what he's been up to is pushing for the idea of carbon tariffing goods from countries that don't have a carbon tax on the way in the door. And you know what that's going to do to Canadians? It's going to make certain foods completely unaffordable for them. We've already heard that people in the high north are experiencing rates of scurvy we haven't seen since, the pirate years. And scurvy. And so now he plans to make oranges coming into the country more expensive, avocados coming into the country more expensive, pineapples, like citrus fruits and things that we import are going to, Mark Carney's plan is to make those things more expensive because they come from places without carbon taxes. So we'll carbon tariff them on the way in the door. And Mark Carney can afford a $10 avocado. But the poor person who wants to treat themselves to an avocado a month, they'll be making different choices. And that's Mark Carney for you.
Yep. Back to peanut butter for you, poor folks. Back to peanut butter.
Okay, now that I've gone on about that, yes. So, anyways, that's the gun show tonight, 7 Mountain, 9 Eastern. If you're not yet a subscriber and it's in your budget, it's $8 a month at rebelnewsplus.com. It's only
It
$2
is
a week.
It is so worth it, you guys. It is such an I mean, it is such a wealth of information. Rebel News,
Mhm.
a Rebel News Plus subscription is just the best $8 money can buy. Instead of giving your dollars, okay, to Disney, or to any other of the major sort of subscription brands, I gotta say it's the best $8 that I spend on a monthly basis, Sheila Gunn Reid, and I just encourage all of our viewers to do just that. So yeah, and it's
Aw,
super easy. It's super easy to sign up. Takes about 2.5 seconds. And then you can support the really good work that Rebel does on the back end. And then you'll get to know the actual in-depth stories. Like
yes.
what we talk about here is sort of sufficient because we have so much to talk about, but on the back end of your Rebel Plus subscription, you get to hear a lot more in-depth information. So yeah.
You get my weekly show, Ezra's nightly fully produced show, where he has a monologue and then a guest, and then he answers your letters. We've got a couple of shows from Avi Yamini behind the paywall, and all of our documentary content is back behind there too. So
Yeah.
anyways, $8 a
So
month.
worth it.
Yep. And thank you for channeling your inner Krista Freeland and advising people to cancel their Disney Plus. Yes. You mean you're welcome? You're welcome.
You're welcome.
We've got a video from Premier Legault saying there's not much risk of U.S. tariffs harming Quebec's aluminum or aluminium, depending on what part of the British Empire you're from, suggesting the province could find a balance by selling to Europe and Asia. Or, you know what, you could just get more money from Alberta. There's that too.
There's that. It's really interesting that Quebec can sell their aluminum and steel products to Asia and to Europe, but Western Canadians can't sell their oil and natural gas to Asia or Europe. How interesting.
Ain't that something? Let's hear this clip.
Explain to me why you are so confident that the Quebec aluminum industry can ship from the United States as a customer and ship to Europe. Why are you so confident that that can happen?
Okay. First, when you look at the world, you look at the needs and the production, they are equal. So you may decide not to ship as much to United States. Somebody will ship, but there's a balance. There's no overcapacity, maybe except for a part of China. But China, they don't deliver. They don't export, how do you say that, primaire aluminum, non-transformed, all right? They don't do that anymore. So there's not much risk for the aluminum business in Quebec because there's no overcapacity. So if United States decide to buy aluminum from Asia or from Europe, then we'll sell to Europe and Asia. So there's a balance. So it's not much risk. I think the risk is for Mr. Trump because in the United States, they use every year 5 million tons of aluminum and they only produce 700,000 or 800,000, which is 14% of their needs. We supply Quebec supply 60% of their needs. So they are in a bad position for sure. So that's why I say it doesn't make sense for him. Nobody believes that there's more aluminum. And I was with the big companies today. Nobody believes that he can make more aluminum in the United States. So he's not in the good position for aluminum. So I guess in talking about aluminum yesterday or today, he's trying to accomplish something else. He would like to have more manufacturing jobs in the United States, but for sure it won't be in the aluminum business.
So what I heard there was that our federal government is greenlighting resource delivery out of Eastern Canada to international markets over the Atlantic, while also killing our ability as Western Canadians to get our product through Eastern Canada. That's what I'm hearing them do.
Yeah.
Well, America, you want to play hardball? Fine. We'll just take all of the aluminum that we typically ship to you and we'll ship it somewhere else. Meh. This is what I'm hearing. If they
would be nice.
If they can green light the sale of aluminum from Quebec to go to Asia and Europe, they can green light the delivery of Western Canadian oil and gas just as easy. Why aren't they not doing that? Like right now.
Right. I mean, we listened to Justin Trudeau say there's no business case for LNG for I don't know how long until the potential buyers of our LNG have gone now hat in hand to President Trump, who struck deals with them to buy our LNG. We can't get our resources offshore in Western Canada.
Mhm.
It is a disgrace. Someplace that is as mineral and oil and gas rich as Canada, we can't, at least in Western Canada, we can't get anything to export markets.
Mhm.
We could be like Singapore. We could be like Dubai. But
could we? Could we?
Infinitely wealthy, but we just can't.
We would be one of the richest. We'd be one of the richest nations on earth. We'd be one of the richest nations on earth if it weren't for the federal government kneecapping us at every opportunity. Hey guys, just real quick, the countries that produce the most amount of aluminum are China, India, Russia, Canada at number 4. But why is Canadian aluminum being shipped to Asia when China is the number 1 producer of aluminum? Why would they do that? Why would they import?
Right.
Canadian aluminum when China has so much?
Right.
Makes sense.
I think Legault is
Emirates,
overconfident there.
Yes. Yeah, I think so too. The United States is all the way down the list at number 12. So Canada's at number 4. The United States is at number 12. But make no mistake, Trump and JD Vance and Elon are listening. They are listening to all of the Canadian premiers saying, "Well, if you don't, we'll just send our business elsewhere." What they'll do is ramp up their own production of aluminum because it's not like they don't have it, but now they're going to find themselves in a deficit for aluminum. They're just going to develop it themselves and close any opportunity for Quebec to ever do business with America again. Like, I just don't know who is advising these people.
I think the same people who were behind the nonsense with Canada Post and their strike during the Christmas season. And now small businesses are like, you know who we can't count on and trust when we need them?
Mhm.
Canada Post. And so I think the same union-y types are currently advising the premiers, like, just,
that makes sense.
That
makes
like
so much sense when you say it like that. Yes.
It's the same business plan. Really show these people, and you know what's going to happen? They're just going to take their business elsewhere. No small business I know is going to trust Canada Post when you need them. And we're just showing the Americans, when you need us,
we're not going to be
here either.
We're just going to be somewhere else at that time. So, I just can't. I can't believe how hard Canada is mishandling this trade war and these. I just can't. I simply can't believe it. They should have taken a Danielle Smith approach, diplomacy and hustle, and we would be ahead by 100 at this point. But we did not. She did a post on X today, showing all of the premiers lined up in a row. So it only took 6 weeks to get all of the premiers down to Washington to do our own lobbying. But she showed a picture of herself at the podium, and watching the other premiers, like her picture is excellent. She's at the podium, but so it's the picture.
She looks like the prime minister right there.
Like, okay, can we zoom in on some of the other premiers, because there is some stink eye happening. Yes. It must be terrible to get shown up by Alberta's premier, and yet that's exactly what you're going.
Oh yeah, there is side eye. Look at Wab Canoe. He's like,
Wab Canoe is like giving the side eye to somebody. Look at it, look at Doug. Doug looks very, very miserable to be there. Like, this woman. This
Legault's got to be really rubbed the wrong way. The only one who seems like there's Scott Moe. He's like, right on.
Mo's giving a little hand pump.
He's
there,
got his little
keep
cinder
going, girl,
block
keep going.
smashers there.
That's right. That's exactly right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah. But
Doug
that's
Ford,
our girl.
Doug Ford's got a help me look on his face. He's like,
help. This is the lady that made me look terrible bad. Help.
yeah.
Take her, turn the microphone off. I mean, if Doug Ford could control, he wishes he could turn Danielle Ford's microphone off as easily as he can turn off the electricity to the east coast of America. That's what Doug Ford knows.
Switchity switch.
Which is a flip it up or flip it down. Rather flip it in. No, doesn't work that way, Doug. She stole your lunch.
Yeah.
Good for her.
And then she ate it. We've got oh God. Before I even click this link, I know it's the Star. Yeah. Toronto Star found a way to shoehorn more immigrants into the Team Canada approach to fighting Donald Trump on tariffs. So the one thing that has really driven the cost of living outside of Justin Trudeau's overspending and the carbon tax has been his out of control immigration levels and the burden that places on housing, our roads, our infrastructure, our healthcare system, our social safety net, our schools, all of that. All those things that you're like, why am I waiting in line for 10 years? Mm-hmm. Why are there 50 kids in my grade 2 class for my 7-year-old? That's Justin Trudeau's immigration targets. Why does the house that cost $300,000 4 years ago now cost $700,000? It's immigration. Mm-hmm. But Toronto Star knows how we need to fight Donald Trump, and that is to successfully fight Trump. Canada needs one thing: more Canadians.
Nope, absolutely not. Absolutely not. That list of things that you just talked about, Sheila, I experience in my everyday life. Every single one of them in my everyday life, and I can say that the last Canadians that aren't actually Canadians, they are these are refugees and permanent residents. How is that going to help? How is that going to help? Diluting our labor force further.
Right. Driving wages down.
Yes.
They write the federal government's decision to cut immigration targets by 21% in 2025 and 24% in 2026 after the Conservatives started talking about immigration targets was a grave mistake. Alarmingly, the consequences are rearing their ugly head at the worst possible time. By reducing immigration levels, this is according to the Toronto Star, Canada's facing the economic fight of our lives with one arm tied behind our back. This is a moment when we should be projecting strength and growth, yet instead we've chosen to shrink. And unfortunately for us, this policy shift is occurring at the same time as another major demographic headwind, the retirement of 5 million Canadians by the end of the decade. Okay, that would make sense. That argument would make just a tiny bit of sense if we were importing people into this country who are high income earners, who are of a benefit to the economy. But by and large, that's not who we're importing into the country. We are not replacing the retiring workforce, my friends.
We're importing unskilled workers. Unskilled workers. Yes. This is the dichotomy of the entire thing. I mean, when's the last time you went to a retail store that had regular Canadians working in it? They just don't exist anymore. When's the last time you went to a Tim Hortons and had your order right and had somebody talk to you in English? I mean, it just doesn't happen anymore. And this is the terrible betrayal that the Justin Trudeau government has rained down upon the people of Canada. And not only that, but these are not people that are paying towards our healthcare systems or education or our social safety nets. These are people being artificially supported by the government to be here. If Canadians knew how many of their taxpayers were going towards supporting new immigrants surviving in Canada, where P.S. they show up and they are shocked by the cost of living. They're shocked by housing unavailability. They're shocked by the terrible, by by the terrible education system that their children are now being exposed to. They're signing up for a lie, and we are paying for it. Canadian taxpayers, we are paying for it. We are paying for it to our own detriment.
Yeah, and I want to be clear, I'm not against immigrants, but I want the immigrant to come to Canada and hit the ground running. And I want the people who are coming to our country to be a net benefit to the country. I don't think we need any more unskilled workers. I think we have plenty of unemployed Canadian youth who could work at our fast food restaurants.
Yeah.
Like, I know that, not I think that. I know that. I think the numbers are almost identical. Like the temporary foreign workers numbers are almost identical to the unemployed youth statistics. What does that tell you? What's happening right now? So not only does it mean that the unskilled migrant to this country it becomes like a net taker on the system, but it also forces other Canadians who could be gainfully employed to be net takers to the system also.
But and then that brings up another point, is that even the skilled workers that come to Canada from somebody else, be they doctors, be they nurses, be they,
their wages are down.
Well, their wages are down, but what does that also do to their home country? We are taking the best and brightest out of third world countries and bringing them to Canada. That does not benefit their home country when we are taking their doctors and their nurses and their skilled workers. This does not help them. This is not in the best interest of Canada nor their home country. We just have to take a good long hard look at our immigration policies as soon as Pierre Poilievre gets in the door and reverse some of the harms that have been done to Canadians. If we ever want a chance of our kids being able to own a home, which right now it is terrifying for kids growing up in Canada, they have no chance ever of buying a home in Canada, and they know it. You want to know why? What is it? 40% of young men between age 18 and 24 would leave for America today, because there is a chance of success for them. There is a chance for them to get a wife, to raise a family, to buy a house, to have a dog, to participate in the American dream. Whereas in Canada, our Canadian dream has been shattered by our federal government.
Yeah, and for, a bunch of people who won't shut up about the evils of slavery in 400 years ago, and somehow they want to point to Canadians, Canada being involved in the slave trade, which we definitely weren't. They sure are hell bent on creating a slave underclass of Canadian, aren't they?
Yes,
that's
are.
what they're doing. They're bringing in a slave underclass of temporary foreign workers to work entry-level jobs until they die.
How many times have you heard Liberal supporters or leftists say, well, Canadians are too good to work. They won't work the retail jobs. They won't.
Who will cut the grass? I don't know, 13-year-olds?
Baloney. This is we've done it up until this point, and all of a sudden you make it seem like we're too good to do the work that has to get done to make our country beautiful and prosperous. Absolutely untrue. But this is what they support. This is absolutely what they support, while also harming the home countries by taking their most skilled, most valuable workers and bringing them to Canada. Yep, this is what they do.
Fast food is a job for teenagers and retirees. And that's what it used to be.
And now it is nearly 100% new Canadians that are doing this work. It's actually insulting if you think about it. It's actually really insulting if you think about it.
I've got a quick ad read, and then I think we have one chat. I'll leave the chat up to Lise. I'll do the ad read. It's from Rumble Premium. Speaking of canceling your Disney Plus, the advice of our former finance minister, Chrystia Freeland, maybe you want to cancel your YouTube Premium and apply that to our friends at Rumble. So this sponsorship is from Rumble, and it's one that's incredibly important to the survival of their company, of course, but also ours, because we are currently demonetized on YouTube. And so if you want to support us, you have to go over onto Rumble to do that. When Rumble first started in 2013, they built the platform for the small creator. They didn't censor or have biases. They were fair and treated all creators equally. No one thought platforms would censor political conversation or censor opinions on COVID, but they did. Facebook admitted they fell to pressure from the Biden and Harris administration, and we know that Health Canada leaned heavily on Facebook to censor Canadians who were just posting their own experiences on their Facebook pages with regard to COVID and or vaccination. Rumble didn't, though. They held the line. They are attacked daily for giving us a voice to talk to you. They're attacked in corporate media. They're attacked by governments like France, and they are attacked from brand advertisers who refuse to work with them, like Dunkin' Donuts. Corporate America is fighting to remove speech, although I feel like they're quite frightened these days now that Trump's in the White House. Rumble has always been in the fight to keep it. Rumble won't survive with brand advertisers as they don't get much of it. Watching our show right now on Rumble is the most they can ask from you. But if you really believe in this fight and if you have the means, one major way you can help Rumble survive is by joining Rumble Premium. Join the community that believes in the First Amendment and believes in our human right to free speech. Rumble's offering $10 off with the promo code STUDIO when you purchase an annual subscription. Go to rumble.com/premium. Use the promo code STUDIO. Like I said, if you have the means and believe in the cause, now is the time to join Rumble Premium. If you don't have the means, and I understand if you don't, thank you, Justin Trudeau, we're just happy if you continue to watch us on Rumble. Lise, I think there's a chat in there somewhere.
Yeah, we sure have one. We have a beautiful $10 Rumble rant from a person named Guillotine Press. I love that name, Guillotine Press. I have high-heeled shoes with the guillotine on one of the heels. And Guillotine Press, I do so. I'll show them next live stream. Guillotine Press says, watching on Rumble so I can support your critical work. Well, thank you so much, Guillotine Press. We sure appreciate you being here. And hey, for those of you watching on Rumble, please drop in the chat where you're from. I love seeing where you're from. Please do that right now. I'm just gonna watch. I'm just gonna watch all your locations.
I like that too.
It delights me. Yeah.
We've got an article here from the Globe and Mail. More than 100 Canadian business leaders, call for the end of prorogation of Parliament.
Well, that's great. Keep talking, guys. Keep talking, guys.
Yeah. This is great, but we've been prorogued long enough for the Liberals to run a leadership race. Where were you guys a month ago?
That's true. That's true. But often in some of these organizations, especially, chambers of commerce and what have you, it takes them a little while to get their pants on, just because they're sort of a bureaucracy unto their own. But this is the business leaders are starting to publicly come out and call to the end of prorogation. This is great. This is great, because we see those of us on X and those of us on Rumble, we've been screaming about prorogation since the day it was announced. But for business leaders to come out and say this is really harming us, our businesses and our industries, it just hits different. It's going to hit government different, because while the federal government is saying, we want to support Canadian workers and we want to support Canadian industry and Canadian development, you really can't argue with the business leaders who are saying what you guys are doing is harming our business. You really can't argue with that. This is great. More chambers of commerce and more business groups should be doing this right now in Canada. If you're involved with one, you should think about floating that to your leadership.
Olivia, can you bring that article back up so we can just show the companies who signed the letter, at least some of them, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
So the letter sent on Tuesday demands a sitting parliament to productively address the, quote, period of turmoil and uncertainty Canada's facing. Canadians who signed it include the leaders at the helm of companies such as Burrowell, Grammarly. I did not know Grammarly was Canadian. David's Tea Inc., Deep Sky, Nix. And Point. Yeah, I didn't know Nix, but I guess like Nix, they export to the United States, right? Like they've got a huge market there. And Point Click Care. The letter breaks down a timeline of events, including President Donald Trump's impending steep tariffs on imports from Canada and threats to acquire Canada as the 51st state. They said, we need a strong, empowered, legitimate. Oh, that's actually quite an interesting word they put there. and robust government supported by a sitting and functioning. So those are two different things, a sitting and functioning parliament,
Right.
to deal with these very grave, complex, and delicate matters. Actually, good for these guys. I was a little bit underwhelmed, like, oh, great, a letter from people a month late to the game. But the fact that they are demanding both a functioning and legitimate government, that means that even if the Liberals choose Mark Carney, this government wants these leaders want an election so that
Yes.
the legitimate government can deal
That-
with Donald Trump.
That one word says it all, doesn't it? Because
Yeah.
in absence, what they're saying is, we are watching what you're doing as an illegitimate exercise in democracy. That's what they didn't say. So that's a beautiful letter, guys. I'm really proud of you. I'm really proud of you, business leaders. Keep going, Canadians. Get your business communities all wound up and start screaming for an end to this prorogation.
Yeah. Cap, it's your turn. The Canadian
Oh,
Association
where-
of Petroleum Producers, where you been?
Where are they? I haven't heard boo from
whatever
them.
they call themselves now.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, we haven't heard very much from those folks, although they are escaping the worst of the tariffs. But still, you might want to fight for your industry. Like, we're having a national conversation about pipelines right now. They should actually be leading it.
Yes, because of the downstream industries that rely on them.
Yeah.
Because
Like
for every dollar,
steel.
for every dollar that isn't made, there are 10 more that are lost in the downstream. So it would be great if we saw a groundswell of business leaders really, really getting involved on this issue.
Let's go. Leger Paul. Actually, you know what? Before we go into Mark Carney, do we have a Rebel ad break that we want to take, or? Yeah, now it seems like a good time. And then we'll get into a little bit of Carney nonsense.
Okay.
Oh, hi, it's Ezra Levant here in Toronto with an important message because we need your help. Independent journalism in Canada is under attack. Government censors, big tech deplatformers, and the dying legacy media are all working together to maintain exclusive control on the information you receive. They don't want you to hear other voices like ours, and they really don't want you to be informed and to think for yourself. That's why the work we do here at Rebel News is so important. Our on-the-ground reporting, independent news shows, and special content you won't find anywhere else. It's all designed to give you trustworthy information and alternative viewpoints so you can decide for yourself. We don't get government money, and we are not owned by some big global conglomerate. We're funded by people just like you, so please support independent journalism and help us continue our work by subscribing and becoming a Rebel News Plus member today, right here on the page. Go to rebelnewsplus.com. Members get instant access to all of our shows, invitations to exclusive events, and access to our premium content like live event footage and documentaries you won't see anywhere else. Only Rebel News Plus members can join the conversation by participating in the comments section of our new website. That way you can have your say too. More than anything, though, you'll be able to take pride in supporting real, honest journalism, and you'll help our talented team continue to do the work to push back on the establishment. We really can use your help. We need it, in fact. So thank you, and enjoy Rebel News Plus.
Canadians know the national anthem. They stand in silence to remember those who died for this country. But not every Canadian knows their rights and freedoms. The Freedom Passport will change that. It looks and feels like a Canadian passport, but contains the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms in a portable, easy-to-read format. The Freedom Passport. Order one for yourself and for all the freedom lovers that you love at freedompassport.ca.
All right, let's get into the Carney momentum. I have to come up with a clever turn of phrase to describe the I don't know what to describe it as. God's waiting room of these Carney rallies. Because
remember when I said that he has funeral director vibes? He should start every single speech he says with "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today. We are gathered here today to mourn the loss of a once peaceful and prosperous nation. I, Mark Carney, am here to see to it." That is how he should start. I hope we have a picture of that Regina crowd, because I mean, I was like, wow, this is truly funeral energy. This is truly funeral energy this guy brings.
it's middle of the day bingo hall energy.
There is not one smiling, delighted face in that whole crowd. Marty up north on Twitter, I think, had the best comment. He was like, "I was told I'd get a donut."
Yeah. We'll see what kind of donuts they like later on in the show, or bagels at least. But yeah, that's I mean, the only person who is excited is Mark Carney, because his energy vampire tank is filled right up, because he sucked the life out of the will to live out of all of the people in the room.
Carney the energy vampire. That's his name now. Carney the energy vampire. That's what we're going with.
It's terrible. Like, even just listening to him, I've never been in close proximity with him, and now I'm fearful to be in close proximity with him, because I feel if you are an energy vampire, I'm a juicy victim. I'm full of rambunctious energy. If you want to suckle on somebody's life force, mine is extra delicious. It's full of meat and DHA and biotin. I'm good for your hair and nails. I feel like he would just turn me inside out like a raisin. There would just be a husk of me laying on the ground, like a snake skin, laying on the ground, and the snake slithered away. That would be what would be left of me after I was in close proximity to an energy vampire like Mark Carney. Look at these people in the background. And one person is collapsing there. That kid is like, "No, stop."
Kid is like, "Oh, what? Oh, it's just like the longest minute of my life. My dad made me come. I was supposed to be at school. We had gym today and art, and it was supposed to be a great day. And instead, I have to listen to this funeral director talk about how terrible things are in Canada and how the people that broke it are going to
how he
fix
definitely
it.
didn't do it. How he definitely didn't play a role in any of it.
No, that kid is all of us right now. That kid is all of us right now. But Sheila, you can thank your lucky stars that you're probably on a Carney watch list. Okay, and they wouldn't let you get within 100 feet of Mark Carney, because he is precious. Okay, and and Carney, the energy vampire, must be protected from the likes of us. We're going to talk about that a little bit more later too.
Let's just talk about how I refuse to believe this poll, and I'm not sure why I refuse to believe this poll. I think I refuse to believe this poll because we just saw a Carney crowd. And I have listened to Carney, and he doesn't have the Carney momentum that the media would love to believe that he has. Because the one thing that the mainstream media hates more than the truth, I think, is Pierre Poilievre. And they just remember how they said Hillary Clinton was going to win? Remember how they said Kamala Harris was
going to win? Yes. We
got to take the same.
We got to take every one of those polls with a great big old grain of salt. But I do think that there is some truth in that the Conservatives have spent 2 years plus saying axe the tax, right? They have campaigned largely on 3 issues. It's axe the tax, it's build the homes, it's stop the crime. Well, now we have an entire contingent of Liberal leadership candidates that are saying basically the exact same thing. So now would be the time for the Conservative Party of Canada to show Canadians how they are actually conservative.
Right.
It's all well and dandy that you surged in the polls over the last 2 years fighting back a tax, the carbon tax. But now that the Liberals are all fighting that same tax, Conservatives must pivot to something else. And I think that they could and would do well by mirroring the tactics of Donald Trump in the United States.
I just refuse to believe that people are so absorbed by Carney charisma that they would just see this surge in the polls. Nothing about Carney says surging to me.
What
Like
I
I'm
think
depressed now talking about him. Like I feel sullen.
I could see there being a certain percentage of Canadians that would be delighted by the orange man bad argument, right?
Sure.
And that these are fickle voters that we're gonna, that go whatever way the wind blows. But this is gonna peter out too. I think the trade war is gonna heat up before it peters out, but it will peter out. And then the Conservatives must be there with a communication plan that really, really communicates how they are conservative and what sets them apart from the Liberals. The last
Right.
thing we need is a Conservative Party and a Liberal Party and an NDP party that largely overlap on the major issues in Canada. And so,
Yeah.
now would be the time to start developing those
Right.
communications for the
And
Conservatives.
when they stopped overlapping as much, you saw a surge in the Conservative Party. When
That's
they
right.
jettisoned the Aaron O'Toole version of I'm just like you, but I wear a blue tie.
Yeah,
Uh,
liberal light conservatives. We
yeah.
have no appetite for that. We have no appetite for liberal light conservatives. We actually see that a lot in BC. In BC with the MLAs who came from the liberal left into the fold of the conservatives, and I think that we're gonna need a house cleaning in BC to clean them up because at its very very root, being liberal and being conservative are a dichotomy, and you must decide where you stand on the issues to be able to claim that you're a conservative. And I think that we need that in Canada very, very bad.
Now we know where Mark Carney stands on the issue of freedom of the press, which is, of course, we all know, a protected fundamental freedom in this country. If we think that things are going to be any different under Mark Carney with regard to which journalists get access and which ones are coddled by the government, it's going to be the same, more of the same, meet the new boss, same as the old boss, as they say. Mark Carney, we know, threw out several independent journalists from his campaign launch in Edmonton, one of them being our alumnus, Cian Bexty, and Western Standard got shown the door too, and True North got shown the door. Now, in Regina, this happened in Regina. I'll let you set this up because this is not just a prickly independent journalist. This is just a prickly guy, like a member of the public. He's just a dude who wanted to come to see Mark Carney, the prospective next prime minister of this country, in his own hometown.
Yes.
Anyways, you can set it up.
Yes. So yesterday, copy paste Carney was in the city of Regina and the city of Saskatoon to do some.
And Winnipeg, by the way. Low carbon Carney was also in Winnipeg same day.
Guaranteed he didn't drive. Okay, so he's taken private air transport to across the prairies. But yeah, he was in Regina yesterday morning, and a guy named Dallin, a harmless guy. Pointy guy, a pointy guy. This is a guy who likes to ask very pointed questions of the government, including the government of Saskatchewan. Posted on his private Facebook that he did a thing. He joined the Liberal Party of Canada and then got an invite to the Mark Carney event in Regina. And as the Liberals are wont to do, Dallin found himself escorted by police out of the event, which brings, it sort of brings. Oh, and P.S. We didn't learn this from the mainstream media news who was in attendance at the event. We learned this from a garbage company who moonlights as a news company. It's called Just Bins. They tell Saskatchewan's best news. Okay, they tell Saskatchewan's best news. A garbage company, but I think that this poses a lot of questions. Number one, why is the Liberal Party of Canada / the Government of Canada watching regular Canadians' social media? Because obviously they were monitoring Dallin's social media. And why is it that Mark Carney, one of the most successful economists and bankers on the face of the earth, relying on taxpayer-funded police to secure his event instead of hiring his own security? How come he is doing that? Why? Like Regina, with one of the most hideous crime rates in the entire country, sent police to the event center to escort Dylan out of the room. Do we have video of that? Yeah, here we go.
Yeah, we do.
I'm a lawyer, so I'm not going to. We should give this traitor a good old warm welcome. Referring to a member in good standing as a traitor, despite your failure to spell a lot of these words, is not okay. We're challenging your membership, sir, and I'm asking you to leave. And
we're joining this party to build our prairie economy for many, many years.
I'm a lawyer, so.
So, do you think that the Carney campaign has an enemies list for every city that they go to? I think they do.
I think they do. I think they're watching social media very, very, very carefully and making sure that only people who are going to toe that party line are going to be in attendance. So don't you even think, not for one quick second, Canada, that this is a man that is going to entertain your peasant ideas or questions. This is a man who is going to censor you, to escort you out of your own democracy. Mark Carney, listen, as for whatever reason, the Liberal Party kicked Dallin out. He is a harmless guy who had legitimate questions, and to escort him out of the building via police escort, unforgivable. Unforgivable.
Yeah. Think about the police state nonsense that you're trying to go see the next Prime Minister of Canada. And look, I get that this is a private function, so they do not necessarily have to let you in. I get it. But think about the optics of it and think about the substance of it. Think of the point of what you're seeing here. This is a snippet of what he will do to regular people, right? That you can have, somebody will have your Facebook post pulled up and read it back to you and say, you are an unacceptable extremist with unacceptable ideas.
Yes, and this is the system that the Liberal Party of Canada has been promoting. Join our party, take part in choosing the new leader. As soon as you sign up on the website, you start getting all of the fundraiser emails. You start getting the emails telling you where to be, who's coming where, what they're doing for your area. So they're literally saying, join our party. Be part of our movement. And then as soon as you do, they kick you out for your unacceptable beliefs. Well, that's not building a party. That's being a tyrant. That's being a tyrannical party.
Let's not forget that this is Mark Carney, who wrote an op-ed calling the Freedom Convoy people with unacceptable views, fringe radicals with unacceptable views. He called them seditionists. And then what did the federal government do right after Mark Carney wrote that op-ed? Treated them as though they were seditionist occupiers of the nation's capital, instead of just rambunctious Canadians in their own nation's capital, which is where you are to go to protest the government. You go there because that's where the government is.
Mark Carney gave permission to the federal government to do what to violate Canadians' charter rights
and follow the money.
That's right.
Follow the money.
And freeze Canadians. Yes.
Mr. Banker said that. Yeah.
It was immediately after that all of the banks were dragged on board to the Liberals infringing on Canadian charter rights. And let's not forget that Emergencies Act, the Emergencies Act was ruled unconstitutional or ruled in violation of the law. Yeah.
Yeah. It was ruled in violation of Canadians' constitutional rights, which means it is illegal and unconstitutional.
And how come Tamara Leach and Chris Barber are still suffering through the persecution of the government of Canada since that happened? When that was ruled unconstitutional, their charges should have been thrown out on their faces. And instead, 1 month from today, we're going to find out what happens to those beauties.
By the way, the fact that their charges still stand shows that, and the fact that they are facing mischief charges shows that the invocation of the Emergencies Act was illegal because police were able to deal with them, rightly or wrongly, and I believe wrongly, with the tools they had at hand,
That's
right?
right.
The point of the Emergencies Act is that the police and authorities needed unconventional tools to exterminate what was a 9/11 level event happening on Canadian soil. That's what
Pearl
the Emergencies
Harbor.
Act, Pearl Harbor, 9/11, that's what the Emergencies Act is meant for. It's not meant because some people, some rambunctious Westerners started a movement to embarrass you and the rest of the country got on board. And so the fact that they're just facing regular old mischief charges, albeit, the Canada's longest mischief trial and probably most expensive one ever. But the fact that those charges remain means that the police had all the tools they needed to deal with the worst of the seditionists, if you talk to Mark Carney. And let us stop and point out the reason why we learned about this from a garbage company. Well, not only does Mark Carney not allow prickly independent journalists who might tell the truth about Mark Carney into his events, but Just Bins, like a real life garbage company,
Like they rent bins. Yes,
they rent bins. They're a dumpster company. They get around. I just love that this is like the biggest news company or the widest reaching news company in Saskatchewan right now. They get around it because they are a garbage company, which means they get around the Facebook and Instagram bans because Justin Trudeau tried to shake down Meta for money. But they aren't technically a news company. They're a garbage company that gives real-time updates of what's happening in Saskatchewan, but also around the world.
Yes. Yeah, no, they're awesome. I just can't say enough about Just Bins. They are awesome. And if you don't think that Just Bins content is being shared with the highest upper echelons in Saskatchewan,
you know it.
Yes, they are just very popular and deservedly so. They work really hard at delivering bins. That's what
they have drivers out on the streets, which means you have reporters out in the wild just taking pictures of the mayhem of Regina.
And they've become the trusted outlet for other people to share their news with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can submit direct to Just Bins and have your story shared on their channel. Like it's just incredible. Citizen journalists, but a garbage company. That's what they do first and foremost. So.
And I remember when they first started, I was like, why am I seeing all these fun Western-based memes from a garbage company rolling across my Facebook? I was like, these are funny. They're poking fun at Regina and just Justin Trudeau. And I was like, oh, if you were trying to build up a following for your garbage company, why wouldn't you be sharing memes so that people would come for the laughs and stay for the dumpsters?
That's right.
And then they did that, and then they started doing the news. And now they're a garbage company with a news feed and an aggregator of news.
And I think their tagline is "We trash talk everyone." Like they hold no reservations about trash talking anyone. It is the best. They are the best. So just huge shouts to Just Bins. We love you guys over here at Rebels. So you got big fans over here.
Christy Freeland. I saw this post. And I got to give credit where it's due. The best response was from Andrew Scheer. Not a great leader, not a great leader of the party, but boy, he's a great MP and he's great at committee. I got to give credit where it's due. So let's show Chrystia Freeland and then we'll show Andrew Scheer's response. My friend Randy Boissonneau has joined the fight. You can too. Commit to vote ChrystiaFreeland.ca.
And then in comes Andrew Scheer with the zinger.
Well, do you have that? It's a quote.
It's a quote tweet from Andrew Scheer. And it was so funny. When I saw, I just burst out laughing.
Yeah. I also they used a screen capture of Randy Boissonneau testifying at committee about his ethics violations. I remember that explicitly, that you couldn't find him like doing something not where he was getting in trouble. Like, look at this.
Oh, just the best. Just the best.
Did
trying
we
to
find that
defend
quote
himself.
tweet from Andrew Scheer? Yeah. Well, that's
Well,
2 votes right there.
just an absolute zinger. Well done, Andrew Scheer. Well done. Yeah, he's a good boy. He's a Regina MLA. He works really hard. Nobody knows the parliamentary system better than him. And
Right.
he's got really beautiful dimples in real life.
Great
just for
little
anybody.
family too. Not little,
Yes.
but lots of kids. Lots
I
of
think
kids.
I think they've got five children. His wife is real involved
Yeah.
in Regina. Yeah, they're just a great family. We're really lucky to have them. And
I
that
just
little
don't think he
zinger.
had the I just don't think he had the temperament to be the leader. But he's a great
I think
MP.
I think it was the wrong time. I think it was the
Yeah.
wrong time. I think that he has everything in him to be the leader, but it was just the wrong time. And I just gotta give the guy a lot of grace. He's worked really hard for the people of Saskatchewan for a lot of years, put in a lot of time in the air flying between, and there's no direct flight between Regina and Ottawa. I mean, he's just done the time while his wife holds it down at home. Yeah, I just really like his dimples. Is what I'm saying.
My one begrudgment with him was when
Mhm.
he whipped the caucus to support the Paris Accord. And I was like, Andrew,
What are you
what
doing?
are you doing? You don't
Stop
believe
it.
this, and I know you don't believe it. And he made
Stop
other
it.
people vote against their consciences too. And I was like, "What? Stop it! Why are you doing
Don't
this? You're getting off on the wrong foot."
don't be a weffer, Andrew. Don't be a weffer. Do not do it. We do not like that. No, he got
No.
it. I think he eventually got it.
I think he gets it now. That's for damn
Yeah,
sure.
I think so too.
Mark Miller, our immigration minister who oversaw the collapse of the immigration system, although I think his subsequent Liberal immigration ministers have done this. But he's the last standing there holding the bag. Mark Miller, this clever tweet. Got myself this extremely patriotic bagel at Fairmont Bagels. Go Canada. Now, I don't know Fairmont Bagels. If you know me, you know I don't eat a lot of carbohydrates, but that does look like something that you would buy on impulse at the front counter of the PetSmart for Rover. I don't.
It doesn't.
Is this?
It doesn't look that appetizing to me. Doesn't look that appetizing to me. And but the thing that we really want to draw your attention to, Canada.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. This
Does
is
that
really
not
important.
Does that not look like the hand of a person whose heart stopped beating 3 business days ago? Like, look at just
His
yellow.
fingernails. His fingernails
Yellow.
look like he's been in close proximity to Mark Carney, and he
And
has
crusty.
had the biotin sucked out of his body.
And yeah, it's time for another dose of adrenochrome, Mark. Okay, it's time for another dose of adrenochrome. Looks like you're running low on the life force. I zoomed in, like I actually when I saw that because you posted it, and then I zoomed in, and then I was grossed out for the whole rest of the night. And then I had to
What did
post the picture of my zoomed in
Yeah.
picture because I couldn't be alone in my absolute disgust of that. But Mark Miller, like if you're gonna post a picture of a bagel, at least hide your hooves. Okay, nobody needs to see that.
The
What do
bagel
you
didn't look appetizing. The fingernails, as you said, looked like they needed to be cut by a hedge trimmer, like the
hedge clipper?
cuticles right of.
Like
Jeez,
dry, nasty cuticles, and just like a yellow finger with all of those ridges. Oh,
that's the
listen.
striations for me. I immediately noticed the striations because I'm like, oh, that's somebody who is perhaps pre-diabetic, but definitely low in some nutrients. Though, yes, that I said iron deficient anemia. So you might be spending too much time with who's the guy behind the vegan bill? Nate Erskine Smith. You might be taking
Yeah.
too much health advice from him. But yeah, his fingernails look like a furrowed field. Like they're just so terrible.
It really is gross. It really is gross. Yeah, Mark Miller. I mean, I just can't wait for him to go away. Like the whole wedding party. I can't wait to see them gone forever.
Yeah, Trudeau gets divorced, but we get stuck with the wedding party still. Hardly seems fair.
It is not fair.
Anyway,
We're in a
but that's-
toxic relationship with the wedding party is what we are, Canada.
I can't imagine why the trade war isn't advancing in Canada's favor when the best we can do is like, here's my bagel.
Here it is, you guys. And on the zoom in picture, it looks like it's one of those zip popping videos. You know what I mean? Because his fingers on the wall. It's just gross. I'll be quiet. I won't make. Sorry, I know it's lunchtime in some places where people are watching.
I realize it's petty, but I am going to make fun of it because it is so ridiculous. This is a minister of the crown, overseeing a major. Jesus, he's overseeing a ministry that the failures of that ministry are responsible for so much of the pain that Canadians are living through right now. And his solution is, yeah, Trump, here's my bagel. But like based on those fingernails, I don't know if he has the energy to eat that bagel.
I don't think that he's even alive. Like I'm pretty sure that bagel was placed in a cold dead hand, and they're just stringing us along, thinking that there are people in charge that have heartbeats, but really, that's not a healthy man. It's not. Mark Miller is not a healthy man. You can tell.
It's a vampire's familiar's hand. That's right. What that is.
Mark Miller, the morgue called. They want their corpse back. Thank you.
Yeah. He's walking well for having a toe tag in his shoe. Let's keep going. We've got the fentanyl czar. We've got former Mountie Kevin Brosseau appointed as Canada's fentanyl czar.
Well, if there was one guy that was worse than Brenda Lucki to become Canada's fentanyl czar, it might be Kevin Brosseau. So Kevin Brosseau was a 20-year member of the RCMP, ending up as the commander of RCMP Manitoba. He was then promoted to Ottawa, where he spent time both at Canada Transport and at Fisheries and Oceans, where he claims that he was dedicated to making our coastlines safer. Okay, these would be the same coastlines that all of the fentanyl has gotten in and out of, up and through his service. So it's really funny because before he was named Canada's fentanyl czar, nobody at the government of Canada suggested to Kevin Brosseau, hey, Kevin, just go make your old X account private. Just do that real quick. But he didn't. Nobody gave him that advice. And then who goes through his Twitter account with a fine-tooth comb real quick? That's right. It's me. Nobody is better at finding stuff on Twitter than me. So this is the tweet that got my fur up. On the 27th of June, 2019, Kevin Brosseau says, thrilled to see the official launch of KTDI at an airport, groundbreaking collaboration with the World Economic Forum, Transport Canada, between the Netherlands and Canada, unlocking the potential of digital identity for secure and seamless travel. Kevin Brosseau is a WEFer. He is a Justin Trudeau insider. He's already been involved in transport and coastal guarding through Fisheries and Oceans for the last several years. So he's already been very, very involved. And if he was doing a real good job, then how is the fentanyl even getting here? This is who we're trusting with doing the job for Justin Trudeau in our tariff war with Trump. Well, it'll be really interesting to watch how this goes down. His Twitter account is full, absolutely full, of bureaucratic back-patting. Okay, it doesn't have that much content, but what it does have is a couple of dozen times Kevin congratulates his former colleagues on their retirements. That's what most of his posts are about. So we have a bureaucratic back-patter, okay, with a bunch of experience in all of the right areas, and a Justin Trudeau loyalist who collabed with the World Economic Forum on digital ID.
Right. The known traveler digital identification was, as you pointed out, a collaboration between Canada, the Netherlands, and the World Economic Forum. And our fentanyl czar was trumpeting the success of it all. However, the program was stalled back in 2022 because nobody wanted it.
Yeah, how much you want to bet, though, that they're going to use digital ID, the fentanyl crisis, as a pretense to usher in digital ID. Watch, Sheila, just watch. If you guys hear those words, okay, digital ID and stopping the fentanyl crisis, you let us know real quick out of this guy's mouth, because he's already put the time in, right? He's already got the work in. He's already got the collaborators in the background. This should be of concern to every single Canadian. Every single Canadian.
Yeah, I think they allocated like $10 million to collaborate on the known traveler digital ID. And I think they blew through that and then ended up with a deficit in the program of about 40,000. So good program. Good job, new fentanyls are. I imagine you're going to do just an equally good job on the border.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. What could possibly go wrong? Now, speaking of things going wrong, but Alberta leading the way and trying to do the right thing, we've got Alberta demanding Ottawa. Well, they say Ottawa, but what we really mean is the Liberals to repeal soft drug prosecutions and let the province take over. Unfortunately, the problem of drugs and drug-related crime in Canada has been seriously exacerbated by policies adopted by the federal government, like zero cash bail and reducing the mandatory minimum sentences on certain gang-related crimes. Why did they do that? By the way, the Harper imposed mandatory minimum sentences. That seemed to be working because crime wasn't as bad back then. They repealed them for systemic racism problems.
Right. That's exactly what the Trudeau government would have done. Yep. Because what they do is they hold up the accurate stats saying, a vast majority of the offenders in this group belong to this one racial class. So that must mean that the system is racist. And then they use that as a pretense to roll back the laws. Well, we know that a lot of the gang activity is coming out of ethnic groups, we shall say, and perhaps it wasn't racist, but accurate prosecution of people who were running in gangs and dealing drugs.
Right, because once you let these people who are running in gangs and dealing drugs back out onto the street, guess where they go? Back to their community to terrorize the people who live in their community. So while you are letting people out because you're trying to fight systemic racism, you're being systemically racist to people in minority communities who have to deal with the gangs and the drugs in their neighborhoods. You're actually making it worse for the innocent people.
And Alberta demanding to take this back is just a great move, an absolutely great move, because nobody would know the destructive nature of this better than the people in Alberta. People in Ottawa don't know the realities of these destructive practices. They don't feel them. They don't see them. They're not witness to them. So Alberta demanding to take them back is a really, really great move, and a really strong one on behalf of Danielle Smith, as is her custom.
Yeah. I mean, the idea that the Liberals think it is okay to release gang members back to reserve so that they can terrorize the reserve, make life hellish there, in the name of systemic racism. Like, what if this were your community? Well-kept, well-paid MP, you'd be demanding change, but since they go back to reserve, you don't seem to care. This is what Danielle Smith wrote on her X. The federal government must act now and put an end to their insane soft on crime policies, which have allowed illegal drugs to flood our streets and repeat offenders to prey on our most vulnerable. If they refuse, then they must allow the province of Alberta to take over all prosecutions under the Controlled Drugs and Substances Act. Let there be no mistake. Alberta's government will find these dangerous criminals, prosecute them, and then keep them behind bars where they belong.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Go Danielle Smith. Go Danielle Smith. And may her energy be contagious across the country.
Yes. This is wild. Adam Zivo. Leak hints at the extent of the corruption within BC's Safer Supply program. Alleged incentives from pharmacies.
Ooh.
Significant diversion of opioids, huge costs to taxpayers detailed in linked Ministry of Health presentation. So this is not just like a bureaucrats talking. This is a Ministry of Health presentation. It says that significant quantities of safer supply opioids are being diverted to the black market with the assistance of organized gangs and certain unscrupulous healthcare providers. Well, I never.
Never.
No. This raises serious questions about the competence and honesty of BC New Democrats and federal Liberals who gaslit Canadians for 2 years by insisting that reports of mass diversion were disinformation. They tried to gaslight Albertans when our mental health and addictions minister was saying, this stuff is showing up in major drug busts in Alberta. It is showing up in possession of people who have died of overdose. And what did the federal government do in response? Resist any attempts to label safer supply pills so that we can't track it when it turns up in the hands of dead bodies in Alberta.
Yeah, and another thing I think that has to be considered is in Canada's healthcare system right now, with the shortage of doctors, with the shortage of nurses, with the shortage of primary care physicians, provinces are relying more and more on pharmacies to do and provide services that typically would have been within the purview of your family doctor or, you know, emergency services or your qualified RN. And while it is good in theory that we're outsourcing some of these easier things, like just think about ear infections, eye infections, uncomplicated UTIs. These are all things that pharmacists can now treat in Canada, just to sort of take some of the pressure off of our overstressed healthcare system. We really must look at who we are giving access to in these pharmacies, because they're not all going to be you know, on the up and up. These are not going to be straight shooters. And let's not forget that pharmacies through the COVID era made such huge hand over fist profits because they were at the forefront of sourcing the vaccines, delivering the vaccines, and making sure and really spearheading a lot of the communications and the public relations, encouraging people to get the vaccines. So we have an industry in Canada, the pharmaceutical industry in Canada, that all of a sudden had record profits in 2020, 2021, and 2022, and they are going to be looking for ways to sustain those profits. So maybe now would be the time to say a closer eye should be kept on pharmacies if this is what's happening in British Columbia. In every jurisdiction in Canada where safe supply is has been rolled out.
Maybe we could just end safe supply because our American friends don't seem to like how we're doing this. There's that too.
We could,
right?
we could do that, except for Sheila, the thousands and thousands and thousands of bureaucrats that are wholly invested in keeping this going because their jobs rely on it. If it weren't for those pesky people, well, I mean, it'll just be so great. Our public service is overstuffed by about 40% across the board, whether it be federal or provincial. And if we get rid of those people, the bloat, the fat from the meat, a lot of these problems would go away. The end.
Yeah. Olivia tells me that I think we need the studio soon. I just want to bring up this thing because I don't want people to think that I'm just making things up and talking out of my rear here when I talked about the mandatory minimum sentences in this country being repealed because of the Liberals' efforts to fight systemic racism. Look, if there's a systemic racism happening in this country, the Liberals are the system. They've been in charge. The systems that you're looking at, the Liberals have done that. But what they say is, we've heard Canadians, the courts, and criminal justice experts and seen the evidence of the disproportionate representation of Indigenous people as well as Black Canadians and members of marginalized communities, both as offenders and as victims. So this is what happened. So they said to combat the so-called overrepresentation of certain demographics in the justice system, they were repealing the mandatory minimum sentences, making it easier for these people to reoffend and also to continue to abuse and terrorize their own minority communities. So they actually made it worse for minority communities by not holding people to account.
This is what happens when you let DEI into your judiciary, into your provincial governments, into your police services. This is what happens when you let DEI into any of those things. There is a predictable breakdown. There's a predictable breakdown in good results, and Canadians are suffering the consequences of all of them.
Okay, we've got an ad read from our friends at Positive, and that's spelled the cutesy way, PAWSITIVE. If you have a dog, and we've all been there, our pup goes from full of energy to sick and miserable in an instant and at the worst of times. Friends, if your dog has been around Mark Carney, I think that could be a reason for your dog to go from full of energy to lethargic and listless. Then we're calling on vets in the middle of the night or on weekends trying to find a clinic that will take us in. It's a terrible way to manage your dog's health, not to mention your stress levels and your monthly budget. That's why people are getting the Pet Emergency Kit by Positive. It contains critical medications and supplies that can not only keep you out of the veterinary office, but may even save your dog's life. Their kits contain critical medications like activated charcoal, styptic powder, and more. It might save your dog's life. Head on over to positive.com. Use the code STUDIO to get 15% off your pet emergency kit. We do have, I think, do we have one chat? I think we do. You want to do that?
I don't see
You
it.
see it? Oh,
I don't see it.
second to last thing in the chat, but that's okay. I got it right in front
Thank
of
you.
me. Bill CF7, who's a regular chatter, says the Trudeau wedding party will find themselves in prison after the fentanyl is linked to organized crime and the Liberal Party. I don't think anybody's going to prison. Like I'm not saying that crimes have not been committed. I cannot confirm that. I don't want to accuse people of crimes. But what I do know about the Liberals is they skirt accountability at every turn. And I mean, look at Justin Trudeau's so many ethics violations. They started Roman numeraling the reports. And what is the worst he got? Bad, Justin. Give us $100. Like, whoopity do. He makes close to $400,000 a year. So while I'm not saying that I don't think people could be in serious trouble or should be in serious trouble, I just don't have any faith in any authorities holding them to account.
Yeah, the former Aga Khan's private island is not going to re-inhabit itself, guys. Okay?
That's right.
The Trudeau wedding party is in for a slush-funded, taxpayer-funded public retirement of their dreams. But maybe let's just hold out hope, because I think that would make a lot of Canadians feel a heck of a lot better if there was some comeuppance for these.
I need royal commissions, many royal commissions. That's what I want for like the first 18 months of Prime Minister Pierre Poilievre's government, just finding out what actually has been going on.
With non-Liberal commissioners. I think that
Yes.
it really, you can't put the Liberals in charge of their own commissions, because it's just so funny. They never find themselves to be in violation of anything when you do that. So
Let's hire Ted Cruz. I don't know what his going rate is. Like, hire outside people to come in, people who have no interest in anything. So they can't say it's, this is a conservative commission or a Liberal coalition. Like, hire me a cop from somewhere in Europe. Like, I don't care, but I just don't want anybody from Ottawa. That's what I hope.
Yeah, me too. Amen.
Yes. Okay, I think that's the show. That's your back-to-back co-hosting gig for this week. Lise, thanks so much for going on this 3 hours worth of broadcasting over the course of 2 days. Seemed a lot faster than 3 hours.
It's so weird the way that we just blast through it. And hey, thanks so much to all the viewers who joined us. It's just my privilege and my pleasure to be here with you, Sheila. Thanks so much for having me. We will see you next Tuesday.
Yes, and I think I'll see everybody tomorrow, because this is just what I do now. Olivia, thanks for putting the show together. Efron, you too, all the people who work behind the scenes at Rebel News to make sure the show is there whenever you want to click it or watch it. I'm going to give everybody at home some homework. Share the show to somebody you think needs to watch it. Your conservative friend who hasn't quite yet discovered Rebel News, or your liberal friend that you want to make sure you never get a Christmas card from. You could do that too. Just, you want to be unfriended, send them the show. But it helps us get around to the censorship of Justin Trudeau. I think that's it. Thanks to everybody who pitched in a little bit to keep the lights on here at Rebel News, and our friends over at Rumble too, for allowing us the ability to tell you what we think and feel without the threat of censorship and or cancellation. And as my friend David Menzies always says, stay safe and stay sane.
I think diplomacy is working. I think that the fact that we got a 30-day reprieve was because we agreed to work on the cross-border problem of fentanyl. I was pleased to see the federal government announce a fentanyl czar, And my administration has already been in touch with him to talk about how in Alberta we can lend to the success of those efforts. So what I would say is what I've seen from this president is that he is prepared to make a deal. We've made a deal on that. I think we can make a deal on steel and aluminum by making very much the same argument that I've been making on energy and critical minerals. We've won the argument that those raw materials are essential to American success. It comes in, it makes value-added products, it creates good American jobs, it creates good American products that we buy back. Same thing for aluminum. They just do not make enough for their defense industry, their auto industry, and their critical needs. So I think aluminum, we can make the very same argument. And on steel, we buy as much steel products from them as they buy from us. Oh, on USMCA, it has to be renegotiated. I think we have to remember we've got two sets of tariffs. This first tariff was about dealing with the fentanyl crisis. And I think that we have satisfied the president that we're working on that. The second round of tariffs will come with a renegotiation of USMCA. And I think the sooner we get a government with a 4-year mandate, the sooner we can open that up and solve the broader range of tariff issues that we have.